Oh hey, it's your friend that will always panic and cook way more than the two of us will ever be able to eat. Here for another round of tech tea. So let's get into it. I mentioned Friday about how there are a ton of Twitter developers among other departments who were laid off after Elon bought the company. But in reality, Twitter isn't the only company that's been laying off these people. In fact, late 22 going into 23, hundreds of tech companies have been laying off all of their employees. In fact, more than 190,000 US workers have been laid off from their tech-based jobs as of today, and there's projected to be more to come. Among these workers are thousands of people who lost their jobs in 2020 and were told to learn how to code, and it's going to be the fastest growing industry, only to be laid off a year or two later. So what the flip is happening? Let's start from the beginning. What caused this initial influx of coding positions? During the pandemic crisis of 2020, everyone was forced to be remote, and the mediums in which we would normally do things had to be done from behind computers, right? So we saw these industries go from having physical marketing campaigns and storefronts to all digital. The way we lived our lives, connected, and bought things changed, so companies had to adapt and change their plane of attack as well. Remote life also saw a host of different niche companies be able to be born and accommodate that. Some of the funding or initial backing for these new companies came from the banks that received stimuli in order to encourage good market potential. So it was a mutual partnership, one of those being the late Silicon Valley Bank. Coding and other computer-based jobs had already been in demand, but COVID just exacerbated this, and we saw the need for these jobs boom. It also seemed like a perfect opportunity for people who were still very much heartbroken over losing their previous jobs during the great layoff of 2020. I was one of those people. Although I turned to SEO instead of coding, we still work together a lot of the time. Now fast forward to 2022. Things are finally getting back to a normal level. Stores and businesses are opening up, employees are going back to work, at least in some capacity, and people are outside and loving the sun again. But on the same token, we're seeing the ramifications of the shutdown start to rebound. While yes, record inflation levels, extremely high interest rates, a chip shortage, and rising crises overseas has played a huge toll, the biggest thing we're seeing is that these tech companies bit off way more than they could chew during the panini and are now seeing the effects from it. So does that mean that every one of us who learned how to code are now at risk for de-resolution? Not necessarily. Studies are showing that some of the biggest losses in these companies are from people who have been there over 10 years, which tracks since the salaries for these individuals are much higher than that of entry-level developers. HR has also taken over a quarter of these total layoffs, since a lot of that department dealt with recruitment. I want to note though that there are still tons of people who were at entry level that suffered layoffs as well. I'm not trying to downplay anything here. So when does this madness end? I wish we knew, but it is likely that these layoffs will finally start to turn around when the Fed is able to slow down inflation, and it has already seen some progress. Last year, the US inflation rate went from a prodigious 8.26% down to 4.93% as reported at the end of April. Until then, I want to point your attention to one developer, Roger Lee. He's the creator of this website, which is featured in Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, and TechCrunch. It tracks tech company layoffs, job openings, and salaries. There are also content creators who focus on critiquing your resume and places that you should apply. I can comment on a couple of them below, but you guys feel free to do so as well. That way we can get people the jobs they desperately need. That's all I have for today. I'll see you tomorrow.